Good morning. It's Ben Zoltak with Bottomless Inkwell. I'm working my artwork this morning. It's early in the morning, it's like 4 in the morning and I can't sleep, so as good a time as any to paint. And I'm working on an interesting one today. It has a little bit of a story. This painting has an approach I don't usually use. And that approach is, well, this painting is actually kind of a story of two friends. So I have a friend who lives in the Tribeca neighborhood in Manhattan, and she's suggesting that I try something I don't like to do as an artist. I've never liked to do it, but I thought, you know what, I'll give it a shot. She suggested it, why not give it a shot? And that suggestion was to make a painting that had kind of like commercial appeal, which I know a lot of artists do, you know. I mean, a lot of artists are making a good living by following trends and doing that sort of thing. And it has never been my style or my approach to ever do that, you know. So, but I thought I'll give it a try, and so I thought I'll make a painting with a couple, close, holding hands here, and it was okay. It turned out okay, but it's not the way I make artwork. It felt wrong. It felt like I was sinning when I started making this painting. But it still turned out okay, and I was like, all right, well, here's a couple. They're holding hands. They have eyes for each other. And but time went by. Put the painting down. Began to work on other paintings and other artwork and whatnot. And then something came to me about this painting, which is super cool feeling, because it reminded me of this other experience, and which is more like the way I make artwork. So I thought, well, I'm going to adopt it. And also it's on this square, not big on squares, it's on a rectangular painting here. But I'm going to take this painting, which started out as sort of a commercial Guga, not my style kind of a thing, and I'm going to turn it into something that is more my style. And so I had this experience, which this again relates to this Wendigo experience I've been relating through my artwork. But it was in the middle of summer this year, and I was with my children. And we were on the beach, and my children were running around with their friends and whatnot. And over the years, and even when I was a kid, I've spent a lot of time alone, more than the average person, for different reasons. And there's sometimes like bad connotations with that, to be alone is sort of stigmatized, I think, or to be on your own. But I was on the beach, and my son my son saw a group of friends. They were doing some sort of sports thing, and my son walked up to me and he's like, "Dad, there's some people over there. Why don't you go say hello to those people?" You can go. And he meant it in the kindest way. My son was trying to say, like, he wanted to, we want what's best for each other, and I think he wanted me to go socialize, and I don't mind socializing, but at the time, I just wasn't up for it. I've learned to enjoy my solitude, I really have. And I was on the beach, and it was a lovely day. And part of me even, I'm sure, was kind of like, yeah, it's a shame. I kind of would like to go socialize, but it just didn't feel right. If I would have, what I'm going to do, walk over a bunch of people? Maybe I know somebody, maybe I don't, and they've all got a connection through some sort of sports thing, and I'm just some guy walking up, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So I just sat there on the beach enjoying my time. Well, then the story unfolds next, where I friend of mine came up to me, not just any friend. This is this lovely woman. We got to be very careful not to name. I think I can tell this story and still keep her identity, private. Make sure the video is actually rolling here. Yeah, there we go. So, I'm sitting there on the beach, and she came up and sat next to me, and it was really, just nice. It was just like such a cool, warm feeling. There's this comedian who tells a story about his friend. I can't remember the guy's name. Kind of a nerdier fella. And he goes on and on about this story about his friend this and his friend that, and at the end of it he goes, and the point of that story is, I have a friend. Oh, I love that. It cracks me up. But anyway, so yeah, this story. So my friend walks over and sits next to me on the beach towel, on the beach. And it was just such a cool memory. And just such a fun moment, very kind, just like a gorgeous woman. One of these women that just bowls you over with how pretty she is. She's probably not on purpose caused a couple car accidents in her life, just being wherever, doing whatever. But so she came up and sat next to me, right, and we were chatting, and it was just really, really nice, really pleasant experience. And but here's where the story gets interesting. So we're sitting there, and as there are outdoors, sometimes there's bugs, right? Well, there's a whole horde of these little gnats, right? Like these tiny little flies. And sometimes on the beach, there are tiny little flies, there's little bugs. It's bound to happen. And they kept flying in between us, right? Now, the background story with this woman, that's important and relevant to the story, is that we were friends through a friend. I just met her. And she's, so pretty. It just, one of these gals that, like, when she was talking to me, I was like, I can't believe this gorgeous woman is talking to me. And I felt like a connection, and I'd even asked her out, and she was really gracious, and we chatted, and we hung out once, with our kids, just in a friendly way, shared some food and had a chat. Never went on like a date or anything like that, but it was a lovely, still a lovely interaction, and so she told me, well, I have a boyfriend, and so that was kind of the end of it. I'm like, oh, I respect that, of course, lucky guy, and so then, let's see, what am I doing here? When I'm talking and painting at the same time, it sometimes gets to be a little too much. I'll work some of this back here. I need some black, which is hiding over in this palette. Okay, so this lovely friend of mine, I'm going to put these gnats in here now too, because this is relevant to the story. So she had a boyfriend, and then went and got married to this lucky guy, and you know. Saw a couple pictures and it just looked great. They look great. They're combined families, that sort of thing. And I mean, it's not even exactly a mixed blessing kind of a feeling, but you know, you get that feeling of sort of like, oh, it's kind of a bummer. Like maybe there could have been something there, but on the other hand, here's a lovely family that just was made. And you know, look how cool, look how great they look together, their kids and the couple, and it's a good feeling, you know, knowing the world has families that are strong and healthy and happy, you know, and that in and of itself is great. So these are representing these little gnats, these little tiny little bugs here. I mean, they're so small you can barely see them. So yeah, so going back to the beach, that's where I need to get back to with this story. I'm gonna switch brushes here. Okay, so we're chatting on the beach, and this is after this lovely woman married her boyfriend, and her daughter came up and sat next to us too. You know, for a couple minutes. Her daughter's just as pleasant as she is. You know, super amicable. I almost want to say like above and beyond the average person. You know, like just extra kind, you know, and what's the word, congenial, I guess. So she sat next to us, and I could tell, well, as my friend and I were talking, these bugs kept flying in between us, and you know, and part of me too felt like almost a little bit of, I don't know if it was guilt or what. I hate the feelings of guilt, but it's probably what it was. A little bit of guilt, you know, like here's this lovely woman, you know, someone's wife, and she's being kind enough to sit with me as I look like I'm all by myself out there on the beach, and it almost felt just like it felt like just like a hint of like you know, taboo romance, I guess, or connection, or you know, like it was like if I had taken it just another step further, or one of us or both of us, it could have been, you know, it could have been more romantic, or it could have been something more than just friends, you know. And of course, it's a married woman, newly married woman, and I knew, you know, that wouldn't be appropriate. And these bugs, as we were talking, you know, the bugs haven't been bad this summer. Mosquitoes haven't been bad. Gnats, flies, these weren't bad. But that particular moment, we were talking, these bugs kept going in between us, and I could feel an energy too that was different than the kind of, you know, almost flirtatious energy that was happening, and it was as if there was a spirit there through those bugs. I could feel that similar kind of electricity that I was feeling with this Wendigo. And I almost, you know, I want to say, and I felt it even more as time went on. I mean, I felt it a little bit at the time, but this was a really pleasant memory, and I thought about it. Not afraid to admit, I thought about it for a little while after that. And I thought, is this a spirit, you know? Is this an electric spirit that is protecting this bond that this lovely woman has with her new husband and this newly built family, you know? and I really, I do think it was. I mean, I know how the rational mind thinks, and I know that a lot of people say, no, that's just coincidence. It's like you're reading into it, but it wasn't to me. These were some spirits that were, motivated to keep this family protected from romance that just wasn't meant to be right now, or maybe ever. And that's totally cool. It feels kind of good, that there's sort of this prevailing spirit out there, set of spirits, keeping an eye on love, making sure that that there's a certain order that's kept up. And so, yeah, this woman's daughter was there. Like I said, who's just as kind as her mom. And I could see in her eye, in her daughter's eye, that she was a little worried for that moment, And I couldn't help but think, like, okay, she looks happier, and this is a pretty happy person, but even just a little happier than I've ever seen her. But I could see a little bit of worry in her eye, as in, like, Mom, what are you doing? Why are you talking to this guy? Why? We just got this family set up. Come on now, focus, Mom. and so it was as though it was confirmed by the spirits and confirmed by this woman's lovely daughter, and it just was a really electric kind of moment. And I'm just blown away by the synchronicity, I mean, because it felt like it was a certain kind of, I guess, like a lusty kind of a feeling mixed with like taboo kind of a thing, like this shouldn't necessarily be happening, for the reasons I was saying. And add a few more of these guys here. Some of them getting in between the couple here. I'll end up, I think when all is said and done, I'll end up piling up a lot more of these little flies. Yeah, I mean, I think thinking about it, and we were, I mean, she noticed these bugs too, and she made some remark like, hey, where are these bugs coming from? What is this? It was like the swarm was nowhere, except for all of a sudden it found its way in between the two of us. And we certainly were not this close. Maybe in our minds we were, but in reality we were just sitting on the same beach towel, having a chat. And there we go. So I need a little bit more color in this guy here. So yeah, it's kind of it's really kind of like magic, And I think that the world needs to be okay with a little bit of magic. I think that is one of the things that is kind of wrong with the way the world is. I mean, I think for a long time magic in its own way was sort of abused, so science got away from it, and it helped us get away from it, because if things are happening and they're not authentic, with magic or religion or superstition and that sort of thing, that needs to be balanced out. But now it's sort of going the other way, I think, too, where people need a little bit of magic back in the world. Not too much. Now we're becomes too manipulative and crazy, but I mean a little bit, you know. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of love magic, a little bit of electric romance magic in this painting. Sort of a what could have been kind of thing, but what wasn't meant to be. There we go. What I'm going to do is some more of the blue here to represent the lake. So that's the story of this painting. I've had to be very careful while I'm talking to you guys about this because, again, I don't want to name the person. I already kind of feel a little bit like a horse's ass relating this painting story. But, so the woman was respectful, you know, and I'm sure her daughter was relieved. Family has been maintained. And, I'm glad. It still is a nice moment, you know. And I guess in the bigger picture too, one of the things this kind of relates to is, and I had this conversation with men and women about how, whether or not men or women can be friends, you know, authentically friends, without lying, you know, without pretending that something else is going on. And I think that what I've learned over the years is, you know, lots of different people have lots of different kinds of relationships. And my favorite is the kind with integrity, which is to say, when someone just lets you know what they want, what kind of relationship do they want. It's all it comes down to. For myself, like I can be in a lot of different kinds of relationships with a woman. I have a favorite kind I would like, you know, I'm of the sort that prefers a little bit more of a serious relationship where it's just the two of you, you know. And flirting and that sort of stuff with others is, you know, too much is too much. Tiny little bit's no big deal, but a tiny little bit more than a tiny little bit is way too much. So, but then other people kind of laugh at that and they're like, whatever, you know, a good relationship is whatever I want. It's as much flirting as I want it to be, or, you know, and I respect that. The important part though is letting the other person know to me, not having a relationship where they think it's one way when in fact the person's indulging in a totally different kind of relationship. That I think is you know, too deceitful for what love is supposed to be. Love should be more honest and open and gentle. You know, that's what you're supposed to be with one another. You're supposed to be kind and gentle. So find out what the other person wants and have a relationship like that. Whatever it is, as long as you're communicating what it is and not deceiving the other person. Because when you do that, you can bring down an entire family. And how sad is that? It's just one of the most sad things there is to me. Lovers that break apart because of miscommunication is one thing, but lovers that break up, and well, an entire family gets damaged, that's tragic. That is really just super tragic. Well, I'm glad I'm putting in this blue for the lake because this painting needed a place for the eye to rest. Clearly there was a lot going on there, so get a little bit of a textural blue here. So yeah, I see this woman once in a while. She still smiles, well, very sweet. I see pictures of their family and they look great. They look like $1 million, you know, look like they're having the time of their lives, and that makes me happy. These little bugs helped save the whole thing. And nothing stupid happened. But but you know, I guess we all have that, right? That sort of that wonder of what might have been, you know, had the paths turned in a certain way, you know. I always look at this and I think to myself, I think I could have forced it, right? I could have forced something to happen. But then how bad would that have been? All these hurt feelings, children would have been hurt, you know. And for what? I mean, love is great. Love is good. Love is all this. And it's lovely to have a romantic relationship, but I think more importantly, a lot of times it needs to be weighed out with reality to a degree too. You know, who might get hurt in these romantic games that we play. And come to think of it, another worthwhile, I guess, thing to mention is sobriety in this realm too, because being sober, which I've been now for a little over 7 months, you really can see what's going on with you know, certain people. And when you're drinking and you have these interactions, you know, it's alcohol's doing what everybody knows alcohol does, which is get rid of your inhibitions. And you know, if you ask a spiritualist kind of person, what alcohol does is you're allowing a wild spirit to take over your body, is essentially what you're allowing it to do. And that can be all sorts of fun, you know, lots of laughs, but also can be tragic and sad. And it isn't that the spirit, the way it was explained to me through a mystic somewhere, was that it isn't that the spirit itself is malevolent. There may be malevolent consequences when the spirit with alcohol takes over your body, but the spirit itself isn't malevolent. The spirit's just having a lot of fun because you let it take over your body and have that fun. And the problem is with that spirit and having that fun is, again, there may be something more to it than just you and your fun. You know, there could be children involved, and the hearts you're breaking aren't just the romantic ones. You're breaking some universe of a little one, you know, who's just trying to keep their world together. So I'm not preaching, you know. I mean, I've enjoyed alcohol, had some really fun times with some very good friends drinking over the years, and I may have another drink sometime in the future. I still have NA beers once in a while, and which are greater or no alcohol beers too, which is a thing they make now, 0.0 ABV, and so that's nice. But I like the self-control that comes without drinking, you know. And I see certain people who still drink, and they're just in denial of the damage that alcohol has done. And so it's really sad, you know, because addiction is hard. It's super hard. And my heart goes out to anybody who's struggling with any sort of addiction. Another friend of mine said, you know, addiction is suffering. And I think that rings true. And I think sometimes you just gotta take a good hard look at them, and you gotta practice to get away from some of those addictions, to make some real changes, you know, to make some authentic changes in your life, to get away from addiction. And you know, there's that saying, just take it one step at a time, and I really think that's true. Well, there are little looks okay. Let's put a few. You know what? I really want to get this tied in a little more. Oh, I know what I can add here. Ooh, I'm gonna add a few of these. Just add a few hints of some things here on the back. So yeah, I like the story of this painting. It's almost as though they're holding hands here. This couple. It's sort of like what may have been, what could have been, or what was in the minds of these two potential lovers. I got a friend of mine. She lives in Hawaii, and she was telling me that she has a friend there, and she had asked her, "Oh, do you have any boyfriends? Do you have a boyfriend?" And she said, "No, I don't have a boyfriend anymore. I only have lovers." And I love that kind of honesty, you know? I mean, that when people are that candid, it just makes the world better, you know? I mean, of course, you can be too honest sometimes. That's also a thing. But I do love when people are honest about their heart and when it matters, I guess, you know? When you're not trying to injure or hurt somebody, and you're really trying to do the opposite. You're trying to be honest to save not put so much suffering and hurt in the world. So yeah. So this is sort of a painting of what could have been. And all right, yeah, that's good. It's capturing the moment. Oh, it's a good feeling when you do that. It's a difference too between classic artwork and modern artwork in the general sense, I think, is that, you know, classical artwork, you're pre-photography, they're trying to capture the literal moment, and modern artwork, you're trying to capture either an intellectualized idea or a feeling, and here I'm trying to capture a feeling. Okay, now I know where I want to go with this. Fill up this sky a little more. And so when I look at this, I see that moment. And it's nice, you know, I've got a painting in the house hanging up right now. I was just talking to my children about it, speaking of capturing these feelings. And it's a painting of when my brother Joe and I were little kids. We were out on Lake Michigan, which is, if you're not from the United States, Lake Michigan is one of our inland seas. In Europe, they call them sea, you know, like the Caspian Sea, the Black Sea. In the United States, they call them Great Lakes. They're fresh bodies of water. And so we were swimming in that lake, and the undertow got us. And there were some other little boy this is like when we were, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 years old. Some other little boy was there too, and he got pulled out. And and there's a crowd of people on the beach, but the three of us got pulled out, and the waves were really big. I mean, probably 12 feet tall. And this is fresh water, so your body's heavier, not like in the oceans where the specific gravity of the water, you know, makes you lighter. In fresh water, you're heavier. And so I made this painting to capture that, because there were no photos of it, and you know, it's quite a story in what happened at the end of that story of that painting. And you know what, I'll run and grab it in a second too, just to show you that painting. But basically, my brother and I, we were in trouble. I mean, the water was carrying us out, and we were really far out there, the three of us. And then it struck me something. You know what? I do remember saying a little bit of a prayer too. I was raised in a really religious Catholic family. Said a little bit of prayer, which of course people are going to say, of course, that prayer. But prayer will help you focus, you know, because it's something you know. So that I said that, and it gave me the focus, and it reminded me that I should just calm down and figure out what's going on. And I realized that, and after the crest of the wave, when the wave went down, that if I sort of counterintuitively went down into the water instead of fighting against it, that I could touch the bottom. And that's exactly what happened. When the wave went over and then went down, instead of struggling for the next wave, I decided to do the opposite and go down. And then that gave me a moment to rest in between waves. I was able to touch just like a toe on the bottom. And so I did that. And that's a good feeling. So, and you know, it's funny, I hesitate to ever bring up prayer because as many good experiences as people have with religion and prayer, there are as many bad experiences. And I've learned to respect it. Church things haven't been for me, but I have friends who it is for, and friends I really respect. Even a punk rock friend, you're the last person you would think, you'd see in a church, and she secretly, or not so secretly, told me one time that yeah, she does go to church. And so that was kind of interesting. I don't know why this church part came up in this conversation of this romantic painting, but there it is. Yeah, that's kind of my take on that too. All right, so just about, I need to wrap this up. Now, is this one done? That's a great question. It's very close. And it may be. Sometimes you have to walk away from it and take a look, and then you go, okay, yeah, it turns out it was done. But at the moment, you get kind of wrapped up in the logic of certain things when you're making a painting, when you're making artwork, and it's hard to tell if it's done, Some of it is also feedback. I don't care what artists say. Some of it is feedback. I mean, if you're working by yourself in the middle of the woods, there's generally not going to be that kind of feedback. But sometimes you get feedback from people, and then that also affects it. My experience has been, this is one of the weirdest, funniest kind of things about art making, is that an artist could be disappointed in the way an artwork is turning out, right? But someone else, someone they respect, or even a stranger, might just go, oh my God, I love this painting, I love it, And you may, as an artist, you may have struggled at this part to get to where it is, and you still in your mind go, maybe I should be pushing it, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. But then if a viewer sees it and they're gaga for it, and you're like, well, hell, it's done. And I think that's something that a lot of artists would never want to admit, but that's, for at least, it's a truth for me, And I love that too. I found a lot of love for when I struggle through a painting, it doesn't get to be exactly where I want it to be, but then I show it to somebody and somebody else is completely gaga for it. They're like, oh my God, I love this painting. And then, it's almost like a feeling of, not revenge, but like a feeling of satisfaction, or, like all your hard work is paid off. Sure, it hasn't turned out the way you thought it might, but someone else completely loves it. And isn't that why we're making artwork? I'm not just making it for myself all the time, like, oh, I hope that someone else is gonna love my artwork too, I have a friend, who's saying like, some artists never like to show their work, and they don't ever anybody to see it, or they never want to sell it, or, It's like, well, what are you doing? I mean, you're making artwork for people to see, you're making artwork for, to sell it. It's not just to accumulate in your house until you have no space left anywhere, and don't get me wrong, I respect that anybody makes artwork for any reason, and some people don't make it to sell it. They only make it for therapeutic reasons or for psychological reasons, and I respect that too. But I do think that there is some merit in the idea of selling artwork and making people happy with your artwork. It isn't always just indulgent, self-indulgent. Oh, I gotta back up and take a closer look here. Oh, it's great. I love it. A lot of weight, and I love the feeling and the meaning of this one. So yeah, just gonna get the last little bit of certain marks in here. And we're just gonna wrap this up. And I am going to, I know this video is getting to be really long. That's part of what's got me here. And I'm gonna maybe hide my signature here. Well, thanks for listening to me go on about one of my paintings and my thought process with this artwork and celebrating this kind of risque thing that we humans sometimes do. Things that we share, these kind of moments where our hearts long for a certain thing to be, and the stars in the universe send out their gnats and bugs and say, no, human, this is not meant to be. You're messing things up. Let's not rock the boat too much here. You're muddying the waters too much here. So yeah, we're gonna put a couple more of these gnats in here. Yeah, so my friend, super kind woman, super pretty. I mean, just, sexy and pretty. Has a little bit of a snaggletooth, which I've realized I'm totally into women with a snaggletooth. I don't know why that is. It's a funny little kink. But, and then she's got this amazing voice. And she, maybe most importantly, is very intelligent, emotionally, and, book smarts, that kind of thing too, which is super attractive to me. And I wish her well. I wish her and her family well. It makes me so happy to see families that survive the world and all of its people who are sometimes walking around with a low level of consciousness, and I like to see when it works out for people. All right. That's all for now. This is Ben with Ben Zoltak, Bottomless Inkwell. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. It's part of the YouTube game here, so their algorithms may push my channel up a little bit further. I don't like talking about it too much because this is mainly supposed to be about art, not necessarily about YouTube. But I would like to make a few advances with this channel so that it helps just get my art out there and my message of my art. So, all right. Have a lovely day. Oh, wait a minute, lovely day. I was gonna show that other painting. That's too much talking on it. Let me grab that other painting. Yeah. So this is my brother and I, once I had touched, I said, hey, I can touch, and then they worked their way over to me. Then we were all able to touch, we rested, and then we went back into, back to shore, where my mom was not very happy with us, nor was the lifeguard, and half the beach was watching us come up on through the water. But we lived through it, so. Alright, this is about, oh my god, this is a 45-minute long video. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Ciao.